Welcome back, friends, to the channel. Apologize, I've been away for a while. I was sick for a while. Then I had travels to Ohio to see family. But now I'm back and I'm finally catching up on some movies today. So really want to talk about Supergirl. I know I'm about a month late, but I think I have some interesting takes on it. So let's get rolling. I'm going to be real with you. I walked out of Supergirl and I was like, yeah, that was pretty good. But, somewhere between the parking lot and pulling into my driveway, that feeling just kind of dissolved for me. I couldn't figure out why, not at first at least. And that's what makes this video a little bit harder than just a straight up review. Because, this is not a bad movie with nothing to say. Millie Alcock gives us a compelling Kara Zor-El. Eve Ridley is wonderful as Ruthie. You actually believe their connection. Jason Momoa is about as perfect a Lobo as anyone could have cast. So, come on. And as somebody who's been reading Supergirl comics for years, I appreciated that this movie really took her past seriously. This is a story about grief. It's about losing everything, about being afraid to move forward, because moving forward can feel sometimes like, you're leaving the people you love behind. I understand what this movie was really trying to say. I really did. But when the credits rolled, I realized I was missing something. I understood the journey Kara was supposed to have taken. I just didn't feel like I took that journey with her. And the more I thought about that, the more I really couldn't stop thinking about it. I realized Supergirl was trying to pull off three really hard things at the same time. First, it was trying to introduce us to Kara Zor-El, to a mass audience, a new audience for many. It was trying to challenge everything that audience thought they knew about her, even though they really didn't know anything about her. And third, it was trying to tell a complicated story about grief, vengeance, and what happens when those two things collide. This may have been a great Supergirl story to adapt to the big screen. The comic was wonderful, but I just don't think this was the right first Supergirl story to tell. Now, I have to do a spoiler warning here, and hopefully I don't have to because it's been a month since the movie came out. But before we go any further, major spoilers ahead for both the movie and the comic Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. So if you haven't seen the movie yet or read the comic, bookmark this, come back after. Just know you've been warned. Okay, so here's what happened. The commercial verdict on Supergirl, well, it landed fast. The movie opened at just over $37 million domestic. Then it dropped hard in its second week. Those are bad numbers for one of the first major movies in the new DC universe. And, well, we know bad numbers and what that means for Hollywood. And that is, Hollywood's about to learn all the wrong lessons, just like they always do. They'll think audiences don't care about Supergirl, don't care about female-led superhero movies, or they think that they don't work. People only want Batman and Superman. Audiences are tired of superheroes. We've heard all of those arguments before, right? Nothing new. But I don't think any of that is true. Not really for a second here with Supergirl. The problem with Supergirl isn't that the movie is too woke or actor said something outrageous, or it's not that it is too smart or too emotional for a mainstream audience. Heck, it's not even that the story that it adapts is a bad story. It's actually an excellent story. But hold this thought too. I think the problem is sequencing. And this movie tries to take Supergirl apart, deeply examining her as a character before Supergirl was ever built up. Before the audience had a true connection and understand the character. It skipped the whole part where you give the audience a reason to fall in love with the character first. Okay, folks, I want to start with what the movie actually gets right, because at its center, it has a genuinely meaningful version of Supergirl. When we meet Kara at the start of the film, she's alive, but she's not really living. She drinks, she avoids people, she keeps everybody at arm's length. And here's the thing, she doesn't want a new purpose. She doesn't want a new home. She wants to be left alone with her grief. Because for this version of Supergirl, grief isn't just an emotion anymore. It's one of her last connections to Krypton. And if she lets herself be happy on Earth, if she lets new people in, it can feel like she's losing her family all over again. Now, here's where the movie gets something important right. Kara doesn't need to prove she's a hero. She already is one. Even at her lowest, she still protects people. She still cares about Ruthie. She still tries to do the right thing, even when she's not sure what that is. I mean, her real journey is learning that moving forward doesn't mean forgetting, that she can carry Krypton's memory into the life she builds on Earth instead of staying miserable just to prove her old life mattered. That's powerful. I mean, genuinely, that's a powerful message. And it's a big part of why I responded to this version of Supergirl. I mean, she's not perfect, but she is good. And that's an important difference between her and Superman. So then why does the comic work and the movie doesn't? I mean, they're telling roughly the same story, right? It comes down to one thing, though, in my book, and that is it's the point of view. I mean, in the comic, Kara, or Supergirl, isn't actually the narrator. Ruthie is. Ruthie is this girl who wants Kara's help getting revenge on the man who murdered her father in the comic. And she starts the story dead certain that revenge is the same thing as justice. And then she spends the whole book watching Supergirl. And slowly, I mean page by page, her understanding of what justice actually means starts to change. We learn who Kara really is through Ruthie's eyes at the same pace Ruthie does. And here's why that works. Because going in, comic readers already carry decades of Superman, Supergirl mythology with them. They know Kara's his cousin. She survived Krypton. She's basically a female Superman. The comic spends its entire run taking that assumption apart, though, piece by piece. And that's the deconstruction part. And it works because the construction, the myth that already existed, it was already there before page one. Okay, now let's flip to the movie. The movie removes Ruthie as our way in. Kara becomes the main character directly, and look, I get it. I understand for a 2-hour movie with the title Supergirl, that's a reasonable choice. But it also means the audience loses Ruthie's on-ramp to getting to know Kara. We're just handed Kara's trauma right up front. And here's the real problem. And this is the thing I can't stop thinking about. Most people walking into this movie do not have decades of Superman mythology in their head about who Supergirl is specifically. They know Superman. They don't necessarily know her. So the movie is trying to take apart a myth that, for most of the audience, was never built in the first place. They don't know what the myth is. Film critic Olga Weffler made a similar point on her Substack called Film Dissection. She said superhero myths need distance and awe before they can be picked apart. Her exact words, "You can't destruct what was never constructed." I think she's exactly right. And I'd add that this problem hits hardest for an audience that never got the construction piece to begin with. If you've never seen Supergirl, be Supergirl, I mean, really be Supergirl, then watching her struggle with whether she even wants to be Supergirl, it just doesn't land the same. So the movie knows exactly where Kara needs to end up. She needs to stop treating grief like it's her last connection to Krypton. She needs to accept that Earth can be her home, and she needs to choose life and connection over isolation. I understand all that, every beat, but I didn't feel it while I was watching the movie. I mean, here's the thing. Kara is already helping people at the start of the movie. She's already protecting Ruthie. She's already capable of compassion. She's basically already knows the lesson she's supposed to learn. She's just reluctant to apply it to herself. So the movie needs one big moment where she stops just knowing what she's supposed to learn and actually learn it and finally start living it. The closest thing we get is Kara putting on the Supergirl costume before the final battle. And visually, Well, it works. The costume brings her Kryptonian past and her future on Earth together. She's not choosing one over the other. She's choosing both. But okay, folks, I mean, here's the problem. A costume can symbolize a change without actually earning it. And I'm not convinced the movie builds a strong enough bridge to get her there. That's probably why I left the theater feeling like I'd watched her journey instead of feeling like I went through it with her. So let me give you one more quick example of where I think the movie kind of interprets the story incorrectly and goes in a weird direction that doesn't get Kara to where she needs to be. And that is, in the comic, Ruthie finally gets her chance to kill Krim, the man who murdered her father. But she doesn't. She refuses to forgive him, but she also refuses to become his executioner. It's messier and more interesting than simple revenge. And in the movie, they have Kara kill Krim instead, believing Ruthie shouldn't have to carry that weight. Now, I understand the impulse behind that choice, but it doesn't help get Kara to where she needs to be, or it complicates it more. But the movie doesn't have time to sit with all of that and process that. I mean, it's too busy also trying to introduce her to an audience that barely knows her while trying to get her to understand the motivation for acting so out of character. Now, one more wrinkle to all this, and this is fascinating. In interviews, the screenwriter has described the comics ending differently than what's actually on the page. She said an elderly Ruthie kills Krim years later after he served his sentence and asked for forgiveness. But that's not what happens in the comic. I mean, Krim survives. Several outlets have pointed out the discrepancy. I'm not bringing that up as a gotcha. Honestly, I'm not. But it's one more sign that this production was focused on Kara's arc first and the source material second. And when the source material had already solved some of these problems, the movie never gets there. I mean, that's worth paying attention to and noting where there's a big failure between the comic and the movie. And that brings me to the actual point of this whole video. I mean, Supergirl is trying to introduce Kara to a mass audience while also putting her through a deep, complicated study of grief, vengeance, and moral compromise. That's one hell of an ambitious swing. I respect it. I'd rather see a superhero movie try something meaningful than just churn out another interchangeable trailer for 5 other movies in the future. And this is the whole thing right here. The movie went for creativity. It went for the hard, interesting, deconstructive thing. And I like that instinct, but it forgot something basic. Before you ask an audience to dig into the character's deepest wounds, you have to give them a reason to care about that character first. Now, we didn't need an origin with an hour of Kara discovering she can fly. Nobody wanted a slow motion costume reveal and a training montage like so many other hero movies. However, we did need some sort of foundation, at least enough character construction that when it came to tearing it apart and deeply examining the issues, it would actually mean something to us. This was a great Supergirl story to tell, but in a lot of ways, it was a second or third movie story. I mean, you need movie 1 to build up the myth, and then movie 2, that's where you break it, challenge it, make the audience question everything they thought they knew. You can't skip the first step. You just can't. And this is the problem with so many female superhero stories today. Only a real relationship between a character and an audience turns a big opening weekend into actual lasting fandom. Gimmicks create moments, creativity creates loyalty, but you can't earn the loyalty until you've built the relationship. And that's the thing I really hope Hollywood takes away from this. Not all the wrong lessons I mentioned before. So that's where I land on Supergirl, a movie I genuinely think got the hard stuff right, but put the hard stuff in the wrong movie. Anyways, thanks for joining me today, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I genuinely love to read your takes, and let me know, did this movie work for you? Do you think it could have worked as a second film rather than a first film, or was the problem much deeper than just my sequencing or deconstruction complaints? I mean, let me know. Drop it in the comments. So like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want more, and share it if I earned it. And as always, stay geeky, my friends, stay geeky. And I'll see you all next time. Later.